The pitch from Acevedo.
Swung on the line down the left field line for a base hit.
Fly ball, gap, right center field. And
Double him up at second.
Luke is going back to the 1-8 track. Get out the right, run and Buster Grandma. It is grand salami time.
Send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Light the W podcast. As always, I am your host, Paul Domingo Anderson, and the Mariners are 47-44 after a huge final 2 games against the Toronto Blue Jays. Mariners dropped game 1. Offense just didn't show up. Luis Castillo actually had a pretty solid start, giving up just 2 runs. The Mariners couldn't muster anything up in the first game, and it was looking like more of the same from then on. But in game 2, the Mariners unlock their bats, and on the back of Logan Gilbert, who goes 7 1/3 innings, scoreless, giving up just 1 hit and having 7 strikeouts. The Mariners pick up an 11-0 win on Saturday afternoon, July 4th. Piggyback gets eliminated about an hour before his first pitch. Mariners doing their best stuff as always. Emerson Hancock then starts the finale, and removing the piggyback worked to perfection. This weekend, it really allowed the Mariners to win this series. The bullpen was already rested, and now it's even more rested. Emerson Hancock, 7 innings, scoreless, giving up just 2 hits, 2 walks with 5 Ks, brings his season ERA down to 3.23, and the Mariners get all that they needed in terms of runs. Big 2-run homer from Mitch Garver in the 4th, a sac fly from Cal in the 3rd. That was really all the Mariners would need. They get an insurance run in the bottom of the 8th as Josh Naylor gets an RBI single to 3rd. Power always moves along, and Randy Rosarena scores that 4th run. Mariners get their insurance and do what they need to do. And overall, the Mariners just whooped the Blue Jays over this weekend, and they very easily could have swept the series if their offense had showed up, giving up just 2 runs over the 3 games and scoring themselves 15. Obviously, 11 of those came in Saturday's game, but if you had spread a couple of those and popped a home run in game 1 against Dylan Cease, like Jeff had predicted, then all of a sudden this Mariners team's in a completely different place, and this Mariners team would have swept the Blue Jays and would be really rocking and rolling here on a 6-game win streak as they head onto the road with an off day Monday, before facing the Marlins on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the Rays over the weekend before the All-Star game. And look, the question is, can the Mariners be consistent? If the starting pitching is anywhere near what it was this weekend, this Mariners team is going to be able to be consistent. They're going to be able to find success. They're going to be able to really just shine and do exactly what they expect and want and need to do to be the team we expect them to be. Again, they're 47-44 right now. They're a game and a half up right now in the American League West. And they're just a couple games back of second place in the American League currently. If you look at the wild card and division leading standings, they're just back of the White Sox, of course. The 528 win percentage at 47-42. Mariners just 2 back in the loss column on them. 516 winning percentage. And the Mariners need to pick up their form on the road. That has really, really been the struggle for them. They're 20-24 on the road so far. And now they have a huge road trip before the All-Star break to try and get themselves locked in where they need to be and really just be able to do the things that they want to do. Again, it's the Marlins here for 3, who have been a decent team this year, especially compared to what you expected them to be. 49-42, that's a lot better than we would expect them to be. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And at home, they're 28-17. This is a team that is really hard to beat at home. This is a team that is young. They are youthful, like I said, and they're just going to really test you and push you to play your very best. They're 4.5 back of the Braves right now in the NL East, and they're in a wild card spot. This is a team that you got to play your best against, and if you can't, they are going to be able to beat you. This is a competitive National League, especially National League East, and the Marlins are right there in the mix right now. Mariners have to play good baseball, and that's what they've done these past 2 days. You play clean, you score your runs, you cash in, you work your good at bats, and you get the elite starting pitching that this team and this organization has really come to know and expect from them. Logan Gilbert, Emerson Hancock have been awesome. Were they snubbed of All-Stars? You can debate it all you want, right? But it doesn't really matter. The Mariners got their All-Star representative in Randy Arozarena, who has been fantastic this year. And he really, really is one of the reasons that this Mariners team has been able to soar, been able to fly, been able to be what they want to be, what they expect to be. And when you look at his season numbers, it really is just impressive. When you look at B-WAR, 3.0 already. He's a 3-win player on Baseball Reference already. That's hitting 287, 376, 453. That's an 830 OPS and a 138 OPS plus. Of course, that's a number that is average to 100. And then anything above is what percentage you are better than the league average. So 138 OPS plus means he's 38% better than the league average. And that is basically just your value as a hitter. That's how you're going to want to think about that when you're looking at slug, on base, all of it. That's what that number tries to account for. He also has 19 stolen bases and 9 home runs already, and he hasn't really had the power we come to know and expect from Randy Arozarena, right? This is a guy that over the past few seasons has hit 27 home runs in 2025, and over the course of 2024, he had 20. He's been a 20 home run guy pretty much his entire career, and right now he sits at 9, more than halfway through the season. Now, look, he's not that far off the pace, but after 27 home runs last year, you expect him to really be better than that. But here in this walk here, he has been really, really good at getting on base, finding the holes, and hitting doubles. His 21 doubles right now here as we sit here on Sunday, July 5th. 21. His career high is 41. That was in 2022. But he's been about a 30-ish double guy, slightly over 32, 33 double guy for most of his career. Look at last year, he had 32, 33 in 2024. So this is a guy that is really doing what he does best when he's thriving, when he's playing his best at the plate. And if he can be a guy that can continue to carry this offense to the second half, him, Dom Canzone, if they can continue what they have done, and you get Cal Raleigh to be the guy that you really expect him to be, and you get second half Julio Rodriguez, and Cole Young continues to be a guy that gets on base, gets that clutch hit, does his job there at second base, that's really valuable. And then you have Colt Emerson, who can kind of fluctuate. He's going to have his struggles, he's going to have his successes, and it's just about him finding that form, finding that bat, working through these struggles so that he's ready here at the end of the season, hopefully, and into next year, right? He is just a rookie. You can't expect him to just crush the ball immediately. And if you have guys like Randy, guys like Dom, guys like Young, who are going to be able to hit the ball and going to be able to do their jobs, it makes this lineup longer. It makes this lineup have depth. And it means that Colt Emerson doesn't have the pressure to be the very best version of himself, right? And that's a big deal for a rookie. You don't want him to be feeling pressure beyond just the pressure of performing, right? There's a pressure to perform, especially on a team with World Series aspirations like the Seattle Mariners do right now. All right, 8 minutes in here. We got a couple more things to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the deadline very briefly. We're going to look at the Kansas City Royals and whether they might have a couple relievers that make sense for this Mariners team to go out and acquire. This is a team that is in last place in the American League Central currently, and they have really, really struggled. That said, this is a roster that Jeff and I both liked heading into the season, and now 36-54. This is a team that's 11.5 games back at first place in their division and could very well sell at the deadline. At least guys that don't have a lot of time left on their contract. And you look at the Mariners, and immediately the bullpen is the place that we're going to attack to try and make better, try and improve, try and make this team push over the top into what you want them to be. Article came out from Bob Nightingale just a couple days ago, I believe. And it talks about how the Mariners are not going to be, quote, aggressive at the deadline. They're not going to be that super uber aggressive team going after the very top players. And That makes sense. That is okay, right? I'm going to disagree on this with some people. Some people are going to panic. Some people are going to be like, oh, but we need the deadline to make our team better because that's how this team has always been. And yes, this team has holes. This team needs a right-handed bat. But that doesn't mean that this team needs to go get a right-handed bat that is going to be Byron Buxton. That's going to even be Seiya Suzuki. You can go get a guy like Taylor Ward, and while it's not a huge addition, it raises the floor of this team. It makes this team better, right? And the cost for going and getting a star level player, an elite level player, even a really, really good everyday level player at the deadline is going to be expensive. Especially when you look at this deadline, there are not that many guys that we know are going to be available. It's going to be a thin market. It's going to drive those prices up. And for a Mariners team that, look, this is a really good team. This is a team that, if it gets their guys to be their guys, doesn't need that many additions. We've seen Dom Canzone breakthrough. We've seen Cole Young breakout. We've seen Randy Rosarena start to have a career year here through the first half of the season, earning him that all-star bid. We've seen Julio Rodriguez through spurts of the season look the best he's looked in the first half of the season at any point in his career. Josh Naylor has been great since the middle of April. If you get Josh Naylor, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh to start to click a little bit, this team is going to be able to go where they want to go. They're going to be able to thrive. And that's why you look at this deadline. It doesn't need to be an impact back. It doesn't need to be this otherworldly addition. It doesn't need to be the top of the market bat like Josh Naylor was, like Gino Suarez was, right? You can go get those rentals that are a little bit cheaper like those guys, but they don't have to be necessarily of that caliber where it is a top of the lineup, middle of the lineup necessarily bat. Okay, you can go and target specific types of players a little bit more to fill out your bench, fill out your roster, improve yourself, prove your depth, allow some of these young guys to be pushed back to AAA where they come in as injury depth, right? But even as we sit here right now, like Brendan Donovan comes back, and where does he fit in this lineup? They've been without him for pretty much this entire season, right? When he comes back and when he starts to be able to find his form and stay healthy, hopefully through the rest of the season, where does he fit in this team? So it's not necessarily a bad thing choosing not to be ultra aggressive at the deadline, but the Mariners should be somewhat aggressive with targeting the bullpen, and they should try and go get better relievers. And that's where this Kansas City Royals come in, because they do have a decent bullpen and they have specific arms that might make sense for this team. Look, ultimately, this is a bullpen that ranks 30th in ERA, 30th in WHIP, 28th in walks per nine, 26th in strikeouts per nine, 29th in hits per nine, and last in home runs per nine. This has not been a good bullpen overall. But when you go look at some of these guys, right, you look at Daniel Lynch. This is a guy that's really thrived here through his first 35 innings. Lucas Urseg's a guy with plenty of past that you can go and write home about and say, yeah, I'm interested in that. John Schreiber is a guy that at 32 years old could make a lot of sense for them to go and deal here. Even Matt Strahm, a guy that struggled through this year, might make sense for this Mariners team to go and acquire. But I think that the guy that you really are going to target is Schreiber. The former Red Sox is 32 years old right now, is a free agent following this season. So it's going to be a rental. This is a guy with a 3.18 ERA so far this season. His FIP is slightly worse than that, and he's been negative in terms of his WAR. But this is a guy that over the course of his career has been a really, really solid reliever. His strikeout rate has dipped this year, and his walk rate has gone up a little bit, especially compared to last year. But his ERA currently is lower than it's been at any point of his career, especially as of late, any point in his career since 2022. And this is a guy that has stuff that you can like. He has traits that you can like, right? Let's go look at his Baseball Savant page. Look, ultimately, nobody is going to be the perfect fit, but the Mariners need more arms that they can rely on. And when you go and look at this guy, he's a guy that, whether or not you believe that they can rely on him, he's a guy that gets ground balls and has a huge pitch mix from a side arm profile that could make sense for this Mariners team. Let's go look at his 2025 Savant page, where his average exit velocity was limited. He was pretty good at limiting walks. He got above average strikeout rate, and his ground ball was down. He's on to 2026, and his ground ball rate is up, which is why that FIP is a little bit worse than you'd probably expect, because more balls are being put in play, and his Walk rate's obviously up a little bit. Like I said, he's below average in that, and his strikeout rate really is the problem right now, necessarily, if you're going to give it a problem. You look at whiff rates, right? The four seam has dropped 5% in terms of whiff rate this year. The sweeper has dropped about 7%. The sinker is about the same as it was actually last year. The cutter has increased its whiff rate, and the changeup has increased its whiff rate. But when you look at that four seam and sweeper, those make up a large percentage of what he throws. Almost 60% of the pitches he throws are going to be that four seam or that sweeper. And when those whiff rates are dropping the way that they have, you're going to lose some of that strikeout naturally, right? Like, opponents have been really good against the sweeper so far this year, and that's been a big issue. Slugging 704 against that sweeper. Last year, they slugged just 393. And when you look at the profile itself, right, like, what is the difference here? So far in 2026, he's averaging 82.2 miles an hour. It's a little bit all over the place in terms of where it's actually going. But you look at last year's a little bit tighter in terms of he knows what this profile is going to be like, and the miles an hour is pretty much about the same. So whatever it is, his arm angle dropping quite a bit actually in 2026 compared to what it was last year, but it's a little bit closer to that norm for him in seasons. Like, this is a guy that can make a lot of sense for the Mariners to go and acquire. Now, he's a little bit more of a project than I think a lot of people would like, including myself. I want a guy that I know that I can trust, a guy that I believe is going to be a stud for this team, for this bullpen. And the guy that's been really, really good for the Royals so far this year is Daniel Lynch. Now, this is a lefty that's 29 years old and has a lot of control left, making him a lot harder to go and acquire. Right? This is a former starter for the Royals. He started 27 games in 2022, 9 in 2023, started 3 in 2024, and 2 in 2025 when he first became a reliever. He was good last year, putting up an ERA of around 3, but his strikeout numbers were not that great, and his walk numbers were a little bit high. He's done the opposite of what Schreiber did. He has had that strikeout rate go up to about 8 Ks per 9 from about 6 Ks per 9, going up about 2 strikeouts per 9. And then you look at that walks. Those walks have gone down about 1 walk per 9, and the home runs have gone down about 50%. So this is a guy that has really found his form here in what is pretty much his second full season as a reliever, or you could say third if you want to go there, and he's been good in his time as a reliever. Again, this is a guy with control. He's ARB eligible next year, free agent after the 2028 season. Means he has 2.5 years of control, and he's going to be a little bit more expensive. But a left-handed reliever that the Mariners could go and look at is Daniel Lynch. Let's go look at his Baseball Savant page really quickly. Okay. You look at his Baseball Savant page, and from the left side, it's a very up-high delivery. It's a little bit of a high 3/4 slot, 42 degrees, but it's a sinker, changeup, slider mix for the most part, and he mixes in a four seam, and every once in a while he will mix in a curve that is a similar profile as a slider, but 6 miles an hour slower on average. But mostly it's going to be that sinker and that changeup. Let's go look at his splits. Right, this is a guy that looks like he could be really, really valuable for this Mariners team. He's been very, very, very good against left-handed hitters so far this year, who are just hitting 153. He has a whip of 0.66, batting average on balls in play below 200, FIP 239, xFIP 366. Those are all good numbers. Just a 3% walk rate and a 19% strikeout rate. And against right-handed hitters, he's also been good. That strikeout rate goes up. The walk rate also goes up, which is the way that guys are getting on base, but still hitting just 214 against him. Problem there, though, is that the FIP is a little bit higher, but at the very least, this is a guy that can most definitely get left-handed hitters out. And for this Mariners team, that could be a very nice added piece to this bullpen. It's another Jose Ferrer that might not have the same devastating stuff that Jose Ferrer necessarily has, but Daniel Lynch is a very interesting piece. This is a guy that you look at what he's done this year. He's 90th percentile in ground ball percentage, 83rd percentile in whiff rate, like 82nd percentile in hard hit, 83rd in barrel rate. 87th in average exit velocity. It's been a lot of weak contact, a lot of ground balls with a really nice amount of whiff there, 30% whiff rate involved. So this could make a lot of sense for the Mariners team, especially as a guy that they could have for a couple years, a couple seasons, a guy that they can control, the guy that they can tinker with a little bit, see if they can unlock even maybe a little bit more. Throws 95 miles an hour on average. And it's that changeup, right? That changeup is something you really like. That slider's another piece. Like, he has the pitch mix to be able to do it with the sinker, the changeup, the slider, and the four seam. It's just a matter of how do you tinker with the usages there? How do you make sure that you get the best out of all of those pitches? Like slider, 44% whiff rate. Is that a pitch that you try and you tinker with and you go use it a little bit more, right? Do you cut that four seamer a little bit? A pitch that's been hit a lot more than those other three, like the sinker, the changeup, and the slider, have been devastating. If you can focus on those three pitches, right? How does this guy look? How does this guy dominate? How does this guy look in your pen? And he can make a lot of sense as a guy that gets ground ball, a guy that can get whiff, and a guy that can really fit into your bullpen as your third best lefty really instantly, with the potential to really mix and mingle in there. A guy that can sort of be a fireman type of guy, or you can use Ferrer as that guy, or you can use Spire as that guy. It just allows for the flexibility more in your bullpen. And I mean, having three lefties that you trust in this bullpen would be absolutely huge. Okay, that's our look at the Royals bullpen. We will look some more at teams in the coming weeks, the coming days. But here we are in July. I mean, it's less than a month now until the deadline on August 3rd. So we're really going to start getting into deadline talk. And you should get excited. I think we're going to talk about a lot of relievers. We're going to talk about all kinds of different avenues to get better right-handed hitters, and relievers are going to be the main targets for what we look at. But the Mariners have a huge road trip ahead of them, off on Monday travel day, and then they get Kirby versus Max Meyer on Tuesday. They get Jansen Junk throwing against them on Wednesday. Tyler Phillips throwing against them on Thursday. We'll see sort of how they mix and mingle this rotation. They haven't actually slotted it out yet, but you'd expect Kirby and Miller both to throw in this series for sure. And we'll see who else throws in there. Probably Wu, to be honest. He probably throws one of those days, but Fangraphs doesn't want to tell me which one. And again, it's not going to be any sort of easy series. Like, the Marlins are not the walkover team that they have been in the past. But you got to go do what you know you can do. You got to go be your very, very best. And Max Meyer is going to be a big test for this team, a guy with an ERA of about 2.5 so far this season and 18 starts and 103 innings. So you're facing him, as well as Tyler Phillips, and Jansen Junk. Go do what you know you can do. Junk is coming off the IL. He had shin inflammation in May, so go get to him. Go do what you know how to do. And let's go win another series and head into Tampa Bay without as much stress on us. Thank you guys so much for listening. It's been episode 177 of Light the W podcast. Till next time, go Imps. Peace.